the experience I had when I was around 8, 9 years old. When my guru in this life, Maheshwarnath Babaji, out of the blue suddenly appeared in Trivandrum, on the backyard of the house in which I was, where we lived, and touched me on my head with his right hand, saying in Hindi, "When the time comes, everything will be fine." After that, I have never been the same. I used to always talk, Maheshwarnath Babaji would ask me, "What do you think?" I told you, between you and me, what's the attitude you have? I said, "I'm your dog. I sit before you, I look at you, I stare at you, I whine when I'm hungry."
Tears flowed when your teacher, Maheshwarnath Babaji, led you to Sri Guru Babaji for the first time. Mahavatar Babaji for the first time. So is he the same Babaji whom Yogananda refers to affectionately in the world famous Autobiography of a Yogi? That's the same one. Yes. The bare-chested youth with long hair sitting in a
There is
lotus
only
position.
one Sri Guru Babaji is none other than the person or whatever being about whom Yogananda talks about in the Autobiography.
Many people call him mythical, but it sounds like what you're saying is he is the opposite of being mythical.
Yeah. Many people think that it is an idea and not a real thing, but it's much more real than the objective world that we see. When I say I am in touch, I mean Sri Guru Babaji.
This is important to me. As a youth, you were interested very much in the life of Shirdi Sai Baba.
I had this deep attraction towards him, which I attribute to my past life connections with him, which I have not revealed neither in my autobiography nor anywhere else.
You said that in your book, but you said when it's time you will. Right. Is it time now? Do you want to start revealing more now?
No. As far as Shirdi Sai Baba is concerned, my experience in the book which I have written is not a vision. It's not a vision, it's an actual fact.
It's real.
For me,
yeah.
It was absolutely real.
You saw this man.
I saw this man.
And it was
I saw
Shirdi Sai
this
Baba.
man, I felt this man. No vision gives you a bunch of currency notes, money, and says, "Go." Which vision can give you?
And this man who had been dead for several decades before you.
That's what we thought, that he is dead, but he is not. This is exactly what I'm saying.
I must ask you about Sarpaloka. You wrote about it. Tell us about Nagaraj, the reptile, the snake, the spiritually advanced being. This reptile from not just another planet but a different galaxy.
I also know that this is one of the most difficult things to believe in the book. Fine, I am going to say what I felt. They can take it or leave it. You have no idea, for a young man of 20 in the middle of the forest in the Arundhati cave, suddenly face to face with something which looks like a snake but speaks. You see, there are worlds where there are beings who don't look like us. And the Nagaloka is a world populated by highly evolved beings who are in the form of serpents.
It is one of the most curious stories Souljourns has ever recorded. Discovered at the end of this bumpy road, at the ashram of a holy man. The amazing first-person account of Sri M, guru to many and author of what's said to be among India's fastest-selling book on spirituality. Sri M lives in his ashram in Madanapalle, India, in the state of Andhra Pradesh, and his book, Apprenticed to a Himalayan Master, a Yogi's Autobiography, is available on Amazon. Born into a Muslim family as Mumtaz Ali Khan, Sri M is considered to be one of India's leading contemporary mystics. As a young man, he lived for several years in the Himalayan mountains with his teacher, Maheshwarnath Babaji. Sri M tells of meeting in person Shirdi Sai Baba, Sri Mahavatar Babaji, serpent spiritual beings from another galaxy, J. Krishnamurti, and many others. Welcome to Souljourns, Part 1 of Shri M. This interview was recorded in Shri M's home in Madanapalle, India, in December of 2012.
Shri M, Mr. N, Madhu, thank you for this opportunity to be with us on Souljourns as people learn more about how to advance their own spiritual self. You were born to a Muslim family. What led you to move beyond it to explore the secrets of the Himalayan rishis, swamis, and gurus?
Yes, you're right. I was born in a Muslim family, but one comes with a lot of background into this world, except that some people don't remember, some do. I happen to be one of those exceptions who remembers. And therefore, even though I was born in a religion which is different, you see, the problem is all religions have been founded on some kind of mystical experience.
Mm-hmm.
As days go by, as years go by, the inner mystic experience is kind of covered up by the outward practices. So, even though Islamic religion appears on most part to be a practical thing for 5 times prayer and all that kind of thing, and that this path is the only true path, and there is only one holy book and there is one prophet and so on, deep down there is a mystic streak in Islam which is called the Sufi. So when I was a young child, my first experience of the Sufi understanding of Islam was my grandmother telling me stories about the Sufis.
I see.
Right. Now, it's quite natural that once you get into the mystic stream and you have a background of the past, you don't then confine yourself to Sufi or Islam. You go forward. You kind of get over it and go beyond.
Years ago, when I started more seriously on this path as a novice, I quickly came to understand that those who were the mystics at the top of Islam, Christianity, Judaism, Hinduism, they had more in common with one another, it seemed, than with people of their own.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's true. So as I went along, I found that here was a teaching which appealed to me very naturally as something which was not dogmatic in any sense. It was an exploration. You see, all the Upanishads, for instance, are dialogues between the rishis and the students. So nobody is asked to believe anything.
They're conversations.
Yeah, nobody is asked to believe. The understanding is, okay, explore and find out for yourself.
The authority is the listener who concludes on his own or her own what they're
Absolutely, absolutely. It's not a question of do's and don'ts. It's a question of understanding and exploring, which is what attracted me to the Hindu system of thought.
You said that you thought all young boys had a deep interest in God. When did you realize that you were the exception to the rule?
Oh, I can tell you 1 or 2 examples. When I found a religious person or heard someone talking about a religious experience, or when I went to passed across a temple or a church or any religious place, I would feel a deep stirring in my heart, which you cannot logically explain. And even now, in those days, impossible, because my vocabulary was quite limited. Even now, I cannot explain this feeling because it's beyond ordinary reason. It came from the soul. I didn't know that it is because of my past birth and experiences at that point, but now I know why. So that was one thing. The other was that the experience I had when I was around 8, 9 years old, when my guru in this life, Maheshwarnath Babaji, out of the blue suddenly appeared in Trivandrum on the backyard of the house in which I was, where we lived, and touched me on my head with his right hand, saying in Hindi, when the time comes, everything will be fine. After that, I have never been the same.
He materialized. He didn't just walk in off.
Well, I can't say whether he materialized or not, because we had a very small compound wall at the back, and when I first saw him under the jackfruit tree, I thought that some kind of a beggar or someone has jumped across the wall, because I didn't see him come and I didn't see him go, but I didn't see him materialize out of thin air, except that when I looked, there was somebody there. And then he gestured and I went close. The normal reaction should be that you should get frightened because there's a stranger, but I was not, which also I cannot explain. Now I can, but not at that point. So I went towards him, and he put his right hand on my head and said this. And then he said, "Go back." So I turned and walked back. It's quite a distance, the backyard, it's quite long. So by the time I reached the kitchen door at the back and turned around to see, he was not there. I didn't see him, like poof, coming or going or anything of that kind.
He just wasn't there.
He wasn't there. Now the thing is, every time I tried to speak of this experience to anybody, first person of course was my mother, who was cooking in the kitchen. I found that my tongue was literally what you call tongue-tied. I couldn't speak. I could say anything except that. So this went on for many, many years till I kind of disappeared into the Himalayas at the age of 19 or so. But then from that day, every night I got into what is called the natural meditation. I call it natural meditation because I felt something beautiful in the heart center. And I closed my eyes. Most often I just lay down and did it, because in the middle of the night, if you sit up and meditate, they might think there's something wrong with this guy. So because we all used to be in one room.
So you did it secretively?
I did, very secretly. And I had many, many experiences from that time onwards. It had started off.
There's so much I want to ask, and we have a limited time, but I must go back to what you said at the very beginning, that you are among the few who were able to remember your previous lives, your previous lessons. Does that make you 1 in a million or 1 in 7 billion? Because I don't know of too many other people.
I can't say this exactly the number, but I think every human being has some hint or the other about his life. You meet somebody and suddenly becomes very close. He doesn't know why. And then sometimes you hate someone for no reason. You think, there's no, why do I hate them? There are some connections. And you go to some places you feel very familiar. But in my case, I began to understand these things much more clearly.
You had a download, almost like a computer download.
That's right.
Of an encyclopedic understanding of your previous lives.
Yes. And in fact, I'm planning in the future, but I'm not doing it because I think already many people think I'm a nut. And I don't want somebody to think that it's all part of my imagination, because it's very much in my mind to write a book called The Past 4 Lives of M.
The Past 4 Lives, it's already destined to be a bestseller. I am powerfully attracted to your story for many reasons. First of all, my wife and I, Jody Cleary, my wife, profoundly loves your story and believes it. And she couldn't wait till I read it. And we couldn't wait to hear you say yes to an interview. So number one, thankful for that. I am powerfully attracted to your story because it reminds me of some other stellar spiritual autobiographies, the stories of Swami Rama, Paramahansa Yogananda, Paul Brunton, a journalist such as myself, but had huge opening through Ramana Maharshi. But there's an exception to their stories because you are a contemporary of ours, of mine in age. I'm older than you are. So in age, as far as age goes, we're contemporaries. This brings your truly unbelievable tale to my generation. Are there many people, do you think, still having today what you experienced in the Himalayas and in front of the jackfruit tree when you were a child?
What did you ask?
Are there many people having the experiences that you've been given?
I don't think so. Not many, but there are.
Do you communicate with them?
Well, in the spiritual field, you're linked always with others who are in this particular field. But most people are unknown. There are lots of people who are so silent as the grass that you walk upon, that you, unless they choose to reveal, you cannot catch them.
You've told your story in a best-selling book in 2011, which is destined to be internationally best-selling, I know. When your guru sent you back home after many years in the mountains, you found your father reading a favorite of mine, Paul Brunton's In Search of Hidden India, Secret India. Secret India. It's still one of the best introductions of Eastern spirituality for the West.
Right.
Did he start this ball rolling with giving us Westerners an insight into spiritual thought?
You mean Paul Brunton?
Yes.
I think in a way it's true, but there have been other writers who were not so popular. Their books didn't sell so well. One of the most important writers who are not Indian and who really explored, inquired, practiced, not just theoretically, but practiced the ancient science of Tantra and wrote on it was Sir John Woodroffe.
Sir
John Woodroffe,
Woodroffe
who wrote
on
under the
Tantra.
name of Arthur Avalon.
Avalon.
Of course, his best known book is The Serpent Power, but there are other like Introduction to Tantra, very many books, I think. But thing is, with Paul Brunton, it was an easy style. This was a little too scholarly and in-depth study, but not like Paul Brunton's.
Paul Brunton's was very persuasive because it told the story from a seeker's point of view,
Right.
who is also a skeptic.
Yes.
And both of those are powerful combinations. So when he finds frauds and fakes and charlatans,
Absolutely.
and then finds the
Right.
genuine articles,
Maharishi.
yeah, it's very, very powerful.
Apart from that, you should also appreciate the fact that there was the great Swami Vivekananda.
Of course, he
who
came
went
to America.
the West.
Yes.
And that was when people woke up and said, here is a treasure from India.
Yeah. He was the very first.
I think so.
Yes. This is important to me. As a youth, you were interested very much in the life of Shirdi Sai Baba.
Right.
Was it because he appealed to Muslims and Hindus alike, or was it for another reason?
No. It's not because he appealed to Muslims and Hindus or anything of that kind. I had this deep attraction towards him, which I attribute to my past life connections with him, which I have not revealed neither in my autobiography nor anywhere else.
You said that in your book, but you said when it's time you will.
Right.
Is it time now? Do you want to start revealing more now?
No. I think I had done too much of revealing now. I used to lead a quiet life here, and now it's become difficult.
But your teachers, including Mahavatar Babaji, told you, directed you, led you to know that this was going to happen. So you have to do your duty, I would think.
I have to. I used to always talk. Maheshwarnath Babaji would ask me, "What do you think?" I told you, between you and me, what's the attitude you have? I said, "I'm your dog. I sit before you. I look at you. I stare at you. I whine when I'm hungry." And he said to me, "But don't shake your tail too much.
Don't wag, is what you
Don't
told us
wag
earlier.
your tail too much."
I was going to say something, but I won't. I'll hold it back because it's personal. My wife accuses me of wagging too much. So when I first heard this, I was very excited. I almost thought you read my mind. Let me ask you one other question about this, because you said earlier, and I believe you when you said that Maheshwarnath Babaji simply appeared to you in front of the jackknife tree when you were a child. So he could have crawled over the wall for all I know. But the materialization that has to have been a genuine materialization was when Shirdi Sai Baba did the same thing.
Absolutely.
And then turned into your teacher.
Right.
So when he came and told you
Right.
what you say you can't reveal
As
yet.
far as Shirdi Sai Baba is concerned, my experience in the book which I have written is not a vision. It's not a vision, it's an actual fact.
It's real.
For me,
Yeah.
it was absolutely real.
You saw this man.
I saw this man.
And it was
I saw
Shirdi Sai
this
Baba.
man, I felt this man. No vision gives you a bunch of currency notes, money, and says, go. Which vision can give you?
And this man who had been dead for several
That's what we
decades before
thought,
you.
that he is dead, but he is not. This is exactly what I'm saying. And in spiritual matters, in the spiritual field, is materializing as tiny things and all is not a big deal. It's not a big deal.
Well, the contemporary of Shirdi Sai, Satya Sai said, those are my tinsel trinkets and trash that I give you so that you come for what I really have to give you, your understanding.
The problem is people get stuck with the trash.
Oh, I know. It's like candy. It's
See,
like
for
toys
instance,
under the
somebody
Christmas
waves
tree.
his hand and makes ash and puts it, then everybody thinks, oh, he's a big man.
Where did that come
It's
from?
I'm just telling you.
Yeah, but where did that just come from?
And it has beautiful smell. So these are not such a big deal. You see, so
I can't believe what I just saw.
But I don't do it because I don't want people to get caught with this. They have to move forward. They have to find themselves.
Before
we have to stop this.
Show me your hand one more time because I didn't see it close enough, if you will. I know we have to stop this, and we'll stop it one day, but not today.
It's okay.
Okay. Well, this is what I'm talking about.
So these are not. What I'm trying to say is, it happened now just for you to know that it's not a big deal.
It had a jasmine fragrance to it. It had a beautiful fragrance to it. And
It still has, and it won't disappear. It's lying there.
And you say for us that we are not to. There it is. I'm so glad you pointed out. You put it right over there. And this is vibhuti. And for people who aren't aware of it, this is what the holy man Sai Baba
I don't
produced.
do it. I hardly do it. I'm doing it for you. I just wanted you to know that such things are possible. But one shouldn't get too much caught up in
No,
that.
you
You know
can't.
what happens? People come to you then and they say, nobody asks you any spiritual question. They say, I have a stomachache, I have this, I have that. I get people calling me at midnight and saying, my son has loose motions. Can you stop it? I mean, is this spiritual? And I had to give them a solution. I said, use a cork.
A cork.
What do you do then? Somebody wakes you up at midnight and says, my son has loose motion, do something about it. You
Very
should go and see
practical
a
advice.
doctor. Yeah.
One more question following up on what we just talked about, because recently I wasn't to the temple. I simply drove through Tirupati and I heard about it. Can you explain why the Shirdi Sai Baba's temple has become the second most popular pilgrimage site in India? Is it because of his lessons? It wasn't because of his materialization.
Mostly because of his, he never materialized,
Yeah, so-
but it's mostly because of his miracles.
So the miracle, and no doubt, because I know that you've been given under order by your teacher and your teacher's teacher, 80% of Babaji's capacities, those could be done
That's
by
true.
you too well.
That's true. But
But
my particular mode and my mission in life is not so much about these matters, but to take people genuinely into the spiritual, which is why I know that it's not easy to find hundreds of sincere spiritual seekers. At least at this point of evolution, it's not possible. But there are people like that hidden here and there. So my job is to find out. Unfortunately, I'm confessing, I haven't found a single one yet. I'm still looking. When I see young people come for the talks, I look closely. Is there this fellow anywhere around here? You saw that in the retreat. There were this time lots of young people, and I was thrilled because I thought, who knows? Now they're not been put into any mold. This is the time when they can be shaped.
You say the same thing my teacher told us for many years, that there's only a handful of true devotees of the many, many, many who follow Sai Baba. One last question and I'll move on, if it's okay. Your teachers, Maheshwarnath Babaji and his teacher, the very esteemed Mahavatar Babaji, sent you home to live by example and to meet different gurus in your lifetime and holy men. Did you ever meet Sri Satya Sai Baba?
No.
Do you have any opinion?
I did. I have met him twice in Buddha.
Tears flowed when your teacher, Maheshwarnath Babaji, led you to Sri Guru Babaji for the first time. Mahavatar Babaji for the first time. So is he the same Babaji whom Yogananda refers to affectionately in the world-famous Autobiography of a Yogi? That's the same one. Yes. The bare-chested youth with long hair sitting in a
There is
lotus
only
position.
one Sri Guru. See, the thing is, when Yogananda Paramahamsa said Mahavatar Babaji, what he meant was that here is someone or something, I say something deliberately, that has been there, many avatars have come and gone, but he remains. You see, avatars have come, but he remains.
I think Yogananda said at least 500 years, if not more.
More. So he remains, and therefore he called him Mahavatar, which means great avatar. Now in our parampara, which means our tradition, we have never used this word Mahavatar.
Only Yogananda pretty much. He made it up.
After his time it came on, yes. But there's nothing wrong with that. But what I mean is we call him, he's always known in our parampara, also among the Nath Sampradaya, as Sri Guru Babaji.
Okay. So Sri
Guru Babaji is none other than the person or whatever being about whom Yogananda talks about in the Autobiography.
Many people call him mythical, but it sounds like what you're saying is he is the opposite of being mythical.
Yeah. Many people think that it is an idea and not a real thing, but it's much more real than the objective world that we see.
Can you still reach your own Guru Babaji by calling for him as he asked you to do? And can you also reach Sri Babaji?
When I say I am in touch, I mean Sri Guru Babaji. Because Maheshwarnath Babaji, he did his work
and then he died.
He left his physical body, and he is functioning perhaps in some other world or field where he has work to perform, and I am not supposed to interfere with him. But sometimes, rarely, I see him in beautiful dreams and sometimes in meditation, which I consider as a visitation, a kind visitation. But I am not supposed to deliberately get hold of him.
Okay.
But Sri Guru Babaji, being, we believe, we know, Adinath himself, or what we call Paramashiva himself, is there everywhere. So it's not a big deal for him to come when you want.
That's amazing.
It's,
May I ask you a silly question? 80% of your teachers, as we said earlier, Sri Guru Babaji, Maheshwarnath Babaji, 80% of your teachers' gifts were transferred to you at Maheshwarnath Babaji's death. Will you pass these along to others as you go through your life? And the silly question is, do you have
not
any,
a silly question, it's a serious.
The other idea is, do you have any idea what the 20% omitted was all about? What gifts do they possess that they did not pass along to you?
Yeah. This is not exactly the percentage that I just said that in a general manner, which means most of the things that were passed on to me are to help me in my mission. Anything that need not directly have an impact on my mission has not been passed on to me.
I see. They're not needed.
Like for instance, I tell you, Sri Guru Babaji lives with his physical body for hundreds of years. I cannot do that. After a while, I will have to give up my body.
What if your Sri Guru Babaji wanted your mission to continue for another 80 years? He
can do that. But as of now, I have no such
Okay.
idea that he wants me to do that. Probably he will find somebody else. I'm not the best vehicle.
Your teacher talks about, this is hugely important to me, I discussed it with my wife. Your teacher talks about how possible it is to exchange thoughts For me, it's a very serious subject. To read
Say
other
that
people's.
again.
Your teacher talks about how possible it is
Yeah.
to exchange thoughts,
Yeah.
to read other people's thoughts, and he says, this is not mysterious. What does he mean by it's not mysterious?
Simple. You know, we have only one mind. We don't have different minds. We think we are all different minds, but we are only the same mind working through different centers. And if you have touched the core of that mind, then you can touch any center that comes from. But it's not always so. You do it only when you need to do it, especially for that person's good, not for any other purpose.
Can we learn to do that? Can others learn to do that?
Yes. The first requisite, of course, is that the mind becomes absolutely quiet. When the mind is absolutely quiet and still, then even naturally, you will suddenly find that other people's thoughts are reflected into your mind. First you wonder, I was not thinking about this, how did this, then you know that this is coming from there. It's possible. So the first step for that is to keep your mind quiet, absolutely still. Plus, there is a safety precaution which has been put into this, which is as long as a person is likely to use it for his own self, try as he might, he cannot go beyond 10%.
Just 10% of it. So it's very limited even if you do become successful.
You can.
And deep
People
silence.
practice. There are ways of practicing. To give you a hint, first thing of course is that the mind has to be absolutely silent. I mean, it should, at given moment you should be able to shut it down and relax. 2, the transfer of thought takes place from this center, from the Ajna Chakra. And the receiving center is the Sahasrara.
Both of which have to be open.
At least they should be active. Both are open, we are in moksha. I mean, there is nothing else to do. But at least they have to be slightly active.
Yeah.
So even when somebody sends a thought, it is sent as if it's being sent out from here.
Yeah.
And there's one secret about sending a thought to somebody. Don't keep on repeating and repeating the same thought like nagging. Just one shot, tuck, and forget
That's
about
it, huh? Well, my thought I'm
And
sending you right now is that our microphone's covered by your shawl and I'm having a little trouble hearing you.
Sorry.
There we go.
If you had thought a little harder, I would have taken it off.
On a similar line, tell me about, I don't know how to pronounce it, thumo, the breathing and visualization process that builds up heat in the human body, enabling you to live in caves in the wintertime. Can you do this? Obviously you can do this because you
do
live
it, but we don't. When you can buy a shawl for 100 rupees, you don't waste your time doing thumo. But in an emergency, it's possible.
So in an emergency, if it's, let's say, I'm not quite sure what the Celsius is, let's say below freezing, you're in a cave and you have a shirt on.
You can survive.
You can survive.
Not only can you survive, I think you can probably start sweating, because you see, with the thumo practice, when it is perfected, you know, the people who really practice thumo are the people belonging to the Kagyupa sect.
Okay.
The Kagyupas, whose head at the moment is this young man who lives in Gangtok, in Dharamshala, the other not Dalai Lama, but the Karmapa.
Okay.
You see, he is the head of the Kagyupa sect, and the Kagyupa sect are descendants of the great Yogi Milarepa.
And they practice this?
Yeah,
and this
even
practice-
Milarepa itself means in Tibetan language the cotton clad.
The cotton clad.
Yeah, so
Because that's all they needed was a
yeah,
little
that's
cotton.
all they needed. And they test it by trying in winter to dry wet pieces of cloth on their backs when they practice the thumo.
They dry the cloth
Yes.
that's wet on their backs just because of their ability to increase the temperature of their body.
It needs practice, but it's basically using a particular bijakshara, sound. And in this case, it is the Muladhara, the Manipura chakra, which is in the navel area.
And it emits a sound.
The sound is rum. Just like in winter, some people stay warm with rum. This Bija
Different type
Akshara
of rum.
here is rum. So you keep chanting rum, 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 And visualize a fire being built here and flaring out. And there is a special breathing technique for that. Rhythmic breathing.
And you had to learn it or you would have perished in the winter time.
Of course I
at
would
the
have perished.
height that you were.
Although
in the caves.
Babaji always looked after me, and we always usually had a dhuni, which is the fire, wherever we went.
I read many
but
times
still
about
it's
that.
not so easy like in Gomukh and Tapovan.
Another really silly question, forgive me for this. Why such emphasis on caves when perhaps you could have built a shelter, a little cabin, or a little cottage for yourself?
See, sitting in a cave has its own special significance. You can stay in a cabin and meditate, but it's not the same as staying in a cave. 1. 2, many of these caves have been used by great yogis in the past.
It's like a cathedral where a million prayers have been said.
Absolutely. And 3, many of these caves, being associated with great yogis who have lived, have contacts with other great beings who may come and go.
I see.
They may not come to our cabin.
Yeah.
You see?
You talk about having your Kundalini awakened, and of course everybody in the spiritual world that I've been around in the last 3 decades wants to have their Kundalini awakened. Are most of us destined not to have that happen because we haven't evolved enough?
Yes. And also it's not a good idea to force it.
I see. Well, it could be quite dangerous.
It can be terribly dangerous.
To those not prepared to expect what's going to happen.
Because you see, it's a tremendous energy. It's called Parashakti. Parashakti means primeval energy, the highest
it's
energy.
the most potent, inert, and not inert.
Not only in
basic.
us, it's the most potent energy which has created this world, and then after the act of creation has gone back and sat quietly in a certain location in our human system. So to awaken that is no joke at all. You have to be prepared. It's like
and you better have a good teacher, I would imagine.
Not only teacher, you should be morally sound, and you should have the strength to withstand what happens, because it's like a Hiroshima Nagasaki. It's no joke.
Well,
but these little pleasant experiences that one has through the practice of Kundalini Yoga, they are good. But the ultimate experience is tremendous. No human being can remain the same once it happens.
So you understand the appeal it has to those of us who are novices, who otherwise might say, I'm okay for this, let me experience it.
Yeah. But maybe you're not yet ready for it, or maybe you haven't found the right teacher, or there are so many maybes in this matter, because many of these things are not strictly black and white. There are many gray areas.
I'm sure.
Some of these things have been oversimplified.
Yes. And when your mental stability could be at stake if you're not doing
very
it
much.
correctly.
I have seen people. I have seen at least 1 or 2 people whose Kundalini has been awakened, forced through Hatha Yogic practices. They are completely crazy. I'm not talking about the avadutas who pretend to be crazy.
Well, a follow-up question on this very matter, because you yourself said at one point in your young life you would commit suicide. I read it in your book. If you wouldn't be able to find a guru or a Mahatma.
It was
why such a drastic stance?
It was in
on
the
your
beginning when I went to the Himalayas.
Isn't that daring the cosmos to strike you down and teach you a lesson?
One has to be 100% aiming for the truth. And for that one should not even care for one's body. Then it comes. There's a state when Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, after many days and 2 years of praying to Kali, did not see her vision, he decided to end his life. Now that's not like ordinary suicide. People commit suicide because they didn't pass an exam or wife ran away and things like that.
This is
much more serious. This is a one-pointed seeking towards that goal, which you say even if your body goes, it doesn't matter, you have to find it. And otherwise life is not worth. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea to do that, but one should not imitate someone who did that and say, I'm going to die because I haven't found moksha, but how much effort have you put into it?
I want to go into the next area. I keep using these superlatives. This is the most, but this one is the most stretching of our credulity to the novice. I must ask you about Sarpaloka.
Mm-hmm.
You wrote about it. What was it like to meet the deputy chief of the Sarpaloka? Tell us about Nagaraj, the reptile, the snake, the spiritually advanced being.
I think
of a
I have
different
written
planet.
about it in the book.
No, you wrote just a little bit. And my question for you is to shade in a little bit that must have stretched your credulity when you saw this
Of
unfold.
course.
And I would direct all of your people, all the people who are listening to this, to read every page of your book to absorb its meaning. But how did you withstand the mental test of not knowing if what you were watching was real or not when Sir Babaji
I
welcomed this man,
Yeah.
this being, this reptile, from not just another planet but a different galaxy?
I also know that this is one of the most difficult things to believe in the book. I know that.
You
And
said it.
deliberately I put it in, even though it is so difficult to believe, because I said, fine, I am going to say what I felt. They can take it or leave it.
And you know this happened for real for you.
Of course, for me it's very real, because you have no idea, for a young man of 20 in the middle of the forest in a Arundhati cave, suddenly face to face with something which looks like a snake but speaks like it's like a comic book.
They even hissed to one another.
Yes.
Guruji.
Yes. So
Babaji.
yes, Maheshwarnath Babaji.
Yeah.
So, and afterwards I have learned that there are many worlds. It's a height of arrogance to think that in this little, in this whole stellar system of which we are just like a particle of earth, to say that life only exists in this little earth is, I think, a very arrogant attitude for human beings
Well,
to
that
take.
you conveyed that lesson very well. People have to deal with the vehicle in which the lesson is presented, the manifestation in which another being. We could far more readily perhaps say, okay, I understand how a being similar to us might come here, but the way you describe this being is what stretches the credulity for a lot of people. And I'm personally very happy you put it, because as a journalist, sometimes I have a quandary. Should I go into this area or not? But since you did it so bravely, I wanted to do it too, because it will cause people to come to a breaking
their
point.
barriers.
Yeah, to break through their barriers, or to back off and just stay in their own comfort zone.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If they don't want, because you see, there are worlds where there are beings who don't look like us. And the Nagaloka is a world populated by highly evolved beings who are in the form of serpents. I mean, for me, it's not, I have no doubt.
No, you've seen it, so you have no doubt.
I have no doubt. Not only that, I haven't written about it, but later on I had 2 visitations to the Nagaloka. I have seen that it's populated.
So you've been there.
I went there.
That's not only, as I said, on another planet, it's in another
It's
galaxy.
another galaxy, it's another sphere.
And these
You
are
see,
highly evolved spiritual beings who
Yes.
can change their forms, which I'll get to later.
Yeah.
Uh,
But you can't go there with your physical body.
So you are teleported.
No.
Okay, what word would you use then?
You see, human beings have not only the physical body, but they also have a subtle body which fits into the physical
Okay.
and looks very much like the physical, except a little more glorified than the physical. And it can, with proper training, leave the physical and travel. And most people, all people actually do that unconsciously in the night when they go to sleep. If you are clairvoyant by any chance, if you look in the night, on a clear night, you see little tiny threads coming out, lit threads coming out from every house and moving up somewhere.
Oh, that's wonderful.
That is...
I have imagined that happening, but with no basis of fact, because I'm not clairvoyant.
So you actually, these are we, meaning we who have left our bodies in deep sleep and are going to various places. But when you see a dream, it's usually a mixed up stuff that you have in your memory when you come back in.
Very hard to make sense of it or even recall it properly.
Yes, yes.
You said in your book, I believe you said it in your book, that you experienced ridicule about talking about the Sarpaloka, about the experience of Sarpaloka and Nagaraj. Did you experience it in a wholesale, unlimited amount, or just a tiny amount? And are you worried?
What is that?
Ridicule about including in your book your experiences with Nagaraj.
No, I personally thought that this is too much to believe, stretching to things too far. But I said, let it be.
Well, I'm glad you did. I'm very glad you did.
Who is it that is the essence of your being? Who is it that sees when I say I see? Who is it that hears when I say I hear? Who is it that speaks when I say I speak? Kene shitam patati prashitam manaha. What is it that lights up the mind? What is it that makes the mind conscious? What is it that makes me speak? Who is it that speaks? What is it that impels the speech? Who is the God who sits and sees through my eyes and hears through my ears? Manasana manyute, that which even the mind cannot conceive of or imagine. That is the essence about which the Upanishads talk about. And it can be learnt only in close proximity to the teacher. Shad means to sit. Shad also means that the mind has to sit down. When you hear with an open mind, without prejudice, when the mind has settled down, that hearing immediately affects a change. But when your mind is sensitive and listening and settled down to receive without any ruffles on its surface, clear cut, then when you hear, while saying, look here friend, you are the essence of all beings, then it strikes. So all sadhana is actually the preparation for settling the mind down.